But what really made it fun was my opposing counsel, because while he fought really hard, he was just a joy to be around the entire time, even in the midst of trial. And we were actually waiting for the jury to come back and having a sandwich together. And I mentioned to him how great it was and how rare it is to have somebody who was so collegial and so much fun to be around in the heat of battle, so to speak. And he said to me, Paul, I don't care if someone's a plaintiff's lawyer or defense lawyer, we're all in this together. That lawyer was Jeff Ward, who we lost this week far too soon. We became good friends after that trial. And in contemplating losing him this week, it struck me how fragile life is and how fragile we all are. Tony Cochran, who received the Tradition of Excellence Award yesterday, quoted a passage from Ecclesiastes that spoke perfectly this point. And it said, "The race is not to the swift or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise or wealth to the brilliant or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all." In addition to those we've lost from sudden illness like Jeff or accidents, we've lost far too many of our brothers and sisters by their own hand when their pain eclipsed their hope. So in contemplating all this, I thought, what can we do about it? And I realized we can be like Jeff. We're in a profession of conflict. It is so easy to lose our basic human compassion for our opponents as we get caught up in the fight. But let us remember that we can all be like Jeff and represent our clients with excellence. After all, he won that trial, while still bringing joy to all those encounter. As Paul instructed the Philippians, let your gentleness be known to all. The Lord is near. And with that in mind, let us pray. Lord, grant us humility. Help us remember that life is precious and that everyone we encounter is going through some hidden struggle. While we are tasked to advocate zealously, help us to remember that we can fulfill that obligation and still be kind to our opponents, for we never know when that kindness is needed. To paraphrase Sir Thomas More, patron saint of lawyers and judges, we ask you to be with us as we deliberate today, and when we stand with our clients in court, so that today we shall not, in order to win a point, lose our souls. Please bless and give your peace to this board and its new leadership, the lawyers and judges of this great state, all the citizens we serve, and especially those most in need of your grace on this day. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. At this time, I'd like to recognize our judges and our special guests. From the Supreme Court, Chief Justice David Namias, Presiding Justice Michael Boggs, Justice Nels Peterson, Justice Charlie Bethel, Justice John Ellington, Justice Carla Wong McMillan, Justice Sean Ellen LaGrua, and Justice Verda Colvin. We appreciate y'all being with us. From the Court of Appeals, we have with us Chief Judge Brian Rickman, Vice Chief Judge Amanda Mercier, Presiding Judge Ann Barnes, Presiding Judge Stephen Dillard, Presiding Judge Chris McFadden, Judge Trent Brown, Judge Elizabeth Gobeil, Judge Andrew Pinson, and I think Judge Hodges is on Zoom. We have a few past presidents with us this year: Bill Barwick, Don Jones, George Mundy, John Salmon, Ken Shigley, and Daryl Sutton. Now I'd like to welcome the new officers and board members. And I will start with, I'm Sally, I welcome myself. So here we go. We have Tony Del Campo. Many of these faces are of course familiar to y'all. Tony Del Campo, who is the president-elect, Ivy Cadle, from secretary to treasurer, and a new face on the dais that we are so happy to have, Chris Twyman, who is our new secretary. I forgot you, Elizabeth, sorry. Elizabeth has the most honored seat in the House, which is immediate past president. Um, And last night, the YLD officers were sworn in. So Ron Daniels is the YLD president. Brittany Browning is the YLD president-elect. And Alyssa, similarly to Elf, has the best seat in the House, the immediate past president. We also have several new Board of Governors members with us this morning at their first meeting. And so let's meet them. If I can do it. Oh, right. Michael, you said I'll head. Oh, there she is. Okay. Our first new member is Ann Templeton Lamalva. And she joins us at from the Alcovey Circuit, Special Assistant Attorney General in the Division of Child Support Services, and also does some real estate, wills, probate, and trusts. I didn't have to say hold your applause till the end. I guess y'all are just going to go ahead and hold it. Okay. We also have, as a new board member, Judge Rachel Kraus. She joins us from the Atlantic Circuit, and she is a Superior Court judge in Fulton County. Okay. Honorable Robert David Bobby Wolf, also from the Atlantic Circuit, and he is a magistrate court judge in Fulton County. We also have John Bay from the Atlanta Circuit. Bay and Associates is his firm where he does medical malpractice, defective drug, and defective products cases. Judge Shakira Ingram is also with us, also from the Atlanta Circuit, and also a Superior Court judge in Fulton County. And I will tell you all that we had a new members breakfast this morning, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to see Judge Ingram doing some great things. She appears to really want to be very active. I'm excited to have her with us. Judge Ralph Lee Van Pelt is also with us from the Lookout Mountain Circuit, and he is a Superior Court judge in that circuit, but will be retiring and returning to private practice in November. Mike Prieto is also with us today. He is a member at large, although his practice is in Atlanta at Prieto and others. And he does nursing home litigation. Paul William Hamilton from the Southern Circuit. He practices in Valdosta, where he does estate planning, guardianships, and such as those things. Keith Adams is with us as well from the Stone Mountain Circuit. Adams and Associates is his firm, and he's in Decatur doing criminal defense and personal injury. If y'all, the new members would please stand up so we can all kind of get a real life look at you. Welcome, and we're very, very happy to have all of y'all with us. At this time, I'd like to call on Chris Twyman to do his first roll call with the only request that please be more brief than Ivy Cadle is when he does it.
Good morning. Here comes the roll.
Way to go.
To our Zoom attendees, when you log in, we capture you. However, if your device name is Joe's iPhone or my iPad, you'll need to shoot us a message, okay?
Let's pretend I started with this. Zoom points for me to announce at the beginning of the meeting. Got a little excited. So they are as follows, and you heard, most of y'all heard these yesterday, but I'm just reminding you. Be patient with us. And again, just as yesterday, this is being recorded and live streamed, so just be aware of that, particularly if you're on Zoom, about what you might be doing or saying that you might not want everyone in the public to see or hear. Also, for purposes of attendance, and that's what actually reminded me that I'd forgotten this, in order for Chris to do his job, if you're on Zoom, your name needs to be displayed properly so that your attendance is recorded. Again, on Zoom, the chat is enabled, but it's not going to be monitored, but the Q&A will be monitored. Damon will be looking at that. So if there's any kind of Zoom questions, they'll be seen. If you're again on Zoom, you need to raise your hand, use the raise your hand feature in order for you to be promoted if you have something to say or share. And we're going to be voting on several things today. Just a reminder that only Board of Governors members can vote. And with the Turning Point stuff, which we'll get to in a minute, the electronic voting, make sure that you're just using it with one device. So don't have it open on your phone and on your iPad and on your laptop, because that messes things up. If you have any questions, let somebody that's walking around that works for the state bar know, and they will be happy to help you. Okay. If you look at pages 22 and 23 in your board book, you will see the future meeting schedule. We will be virtual in October. We will be in Atlanta in January, and we will be at Callaway Gardens in the spring to hopefully enjoy some nice foliage. All right. The first thing that we're going to do as a matter of business is to approve the members of the state disciplinary boards. Those members are listed on pages 30 and 31 of your materials. That I believe that's from what came this morning from Sarah by email, that y'all should have gotten from Sarah Cool. So if you'd like to look at those. And then the second thing will be, the second group of people are the members of the Formal Advisory Opinion Board, which you can find on page 28 of those emailed materials. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those members? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on those members? All right. Now, is everybody all set with their, wait, hold on a second. We didn't do our test question. Okay. It's not on my sheet that you gave me. All right, are y'all signed in? Saturday BOG. And if you don't want to use the app, like, you know, you can get a clicker. Yeah, I'll give y'all a minute. I just got on myself, so. Many. How many? Okay. All right, everybody feel good with that stuff? Okay. All right, now we're going to go back to the approval of the members of the State Disciplinary Board and the Formal Advisory Opinion Board. I believe we had a motion, we had a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Let's vote on that, please, Jennifer. Okay. Okay. I'm still dying to know who it is that always votes against everything, but we'll probably never know. Well, it's either Jack Long or David Lipscomb is the way I calculate it. All right. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the ICJE board appointment. That appointment is Brad Marsh, who will serve on that Judicial Education Board as the bar's appointee. Is there a motion on that? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All right, let's put that up, Jennifer. Okay. Okay, 2%. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2022-2023 committees, the standing committees, special committees, and program committees and boards. And again, that was emailed to y'all early this morning by Sarah Cool for your benefit. So you should all have access to that. Is there a motion to approve those committees? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All right, Jennifer. All right. Oh, a little more opposition this time, but it still passes overwhelmingly. All right, thank you all for your attention to those housekeeping matters. I appreciate you doing that and getting it out of the way so quickly. I am absolutely and completely thrilled and excited to be standing in front of y'all this morning. I deeply appreciate the support, your confidence, and your trust as I take over as president of the bar. I didn't ever really imagine being standing up here when I first started practicing law, but I'm very, very glad to be standing in front of you this morning. I pledge to you that I will do my best. I will always do my best, but what I will ask of you is for your suggestions and your help and your comments. It takes more than one person, of course, to do this job, and I look forward to working with all of y'all. And I thank you for those of you who serve on committees, as members of committees, as chairs, the executive committee, and of course, the officers. And I believe we'll get through this together, and I hope have a very good year. I'm also looking so forward to working with the fabulous employees of the State Bar, with whom I've gotten to become very good friends and rely on so much. They do such a good job. They are diligent, and they really have the best interests of the bar at heart. I want to thank the members of the court for their support and their presence here today. But what I really want to do is give a humongous shout out and thanks to this lady back here, Elizabeth Fight, for her steady hand on the wheel last year when she had to face several things, especially the unauthorized access, I got the words right, of the bar website, of the bar network, in the last couple months of her presidency as she was winding down. So I hope you will please join me in a big round of applause for Elizabeth Fight. You just heard a little bit about this from Paul Painter. Paul, we should have traded a few notes before we both got up here to speak. But last weekend, our colleague and former Board of Governors meeting, Jeff Ward, died accidentally and tragically, and he will be well missed. He was very active in the state bar. His wife is Jennifer Davis Ward. That's a name that is probably very familiar to many of you. She worked at the state bar during the late 80s and through the 90s and still remains active with the state bar. She's just a part of the state bar family. I will tell you that personally, not having those two folks here this weekend changed the dynamic for me. It would have been a much happier, everybody, I will just say this, everybody in this room would have been happier if those two were here with us this weekend. However, you know, as we mourn the loss of our colleague, I wanted to do something, and that is to think about it in a different way, because it certainly is easy to be sad about things like that. And it's a shock, and a lot of people that are Jeff's friends are still in shock. But as I stopped and thought for a few minutes, I said, you know, isn't this an opportunity to reassess priorities? And I tried to do that. You know, it brings to mind several things. Life is short. Life is fragile. Life is unpredictable. And sometimes life is too short. It gets shortened and we don't realize that it's going to happen. And what I decided to do, and this is my ask of y'all, is for you to join me. I want you to join me in my pledge to renew my commitment to civility and professionalism, to our colleagues, but most especially to our adversaries. As the late Justice Harris Hines used to say, and he most importantly used to embody, be kind. Be kind. It's not hard. Be kind to our friends. Let's be kind to our families. Let's be kind to our perceived enemies, our adversaries, those on the other side with whom we're not getting along perhaps. Maybe take a minute and pause before you send that, before you mash send on the email. And what I really started thinking about was, you know, you don't ever know when it might be your last chance or you've done your last thing as you're walking on the earth. So let's try to conduct ourselves in a way where there is no fear that we will regret our last words to anyone. So that's what I'll ask of y'all. And I think that that would make a nice tribute, not only to Jeff, but to all those who have gone before, perhaps when they didn't realize it was their time. So that was one bad thing that kind of, we're going to turn it on its head and make it into a good thing. We're also going to turn the unauthorized access, right again, of the network into a positive. It's an opportunity for us to rebuild. We were already starting this process, but it certainly has given us an opportunity to rebuild and improve things. And we pledge to do that. Regarding that unauthorized access, there's a memo in your board book with all the details about it, which should answer most of your questions. But what you need to know is that the bar staff and the experts that were dealing with the issue for us have been working diligently on things, and things are moving along well. Y'all probably noticed that in the way that the website has started to come back. Next thing is, it's a good time, in my opinion, for us to look at CLE. You might know that the Supreme Court has appointed a task force, and one of the task force charges is to look at CLE and the programming and how we do CLE. The Commission on Continuing, the Commission on Continuing Lawyer Competency is also taking a fresh look at CLE. ICLE is in a transition phase. So again, it's a good time to take a fresh look at it, in my opinion. And what we're going to do is we'll focus on enhancing our continuing program, our continuing legal education programming. The goal is to produce and promote high quality, comprehensive and innovative CLE programming that is valuable to Georgia lawyers and conveniently available. What we're going to focus on as we go through this process is member value. It must be a top priority, because what we want is delivery of good programming that is available conveniently to all members around the state, no matter where you're located geographically. I'd like to hear from y'all, especially those of y'all who are not in Metro Atlanta, about how's it going? Where do you have to drive too far to get a CLE, or are you being well served? That's very important. We're going to try to enhance and expand our rebroadcasting of alternatives, making scheduling as convenient as possible for the busy members of our bar so that it's not a burden to get your CLE hours. Accessibility, very important that we're going to work on. We will be reaching out very soon for your feedback on enhancing the CLE programming. And in turn, I hope that you will ask the members, your fellow members of your circuits, the folks that you are here representing, what additions or other changes they would like to see in any of our programming. I want it to be just as fine as possible. And I think it's really good now, but I think everything can be improved, and that's the goal with the CLE. I want to tell you all that I hope as the year goes on that you will feel free to contact me, give me your honest opinion of how the bar is doing. Is there stuff that the bar you think should be doing or should not be doing? If you hear from the members in your circuits and those that you represent, I hope you'll share that with me as well. As we go through this together, we're going to have a wonderful year, and I'm very much looking forward to it. If I don't hear from you, don't be surprised if you hear from me, because you might, because I will be asking for your help and assistance. I'd like to thank you again for all y'all do for your clients, for your neighbors, for the legal profession, and for the justice system of the great state of Georgia. I look forward to working with each and every one of y'all. Okay, that's all. All right. Nominations to the Judicial Qualifications Committee is the next item on our agenda. Okay. This is the list of folks that if this body approves, they will be submitted to the Supreme Court to consider for their upcoming attorney appointment. So this has been through the committee that looks at these names and been vetted by that committee, and it's presented to us as their 5 names to send to the court. Oh, thank you. And those are, y'all can see, Robert Bozeman, Elizabeth Brown, Andy Davis, Dax Lopez, and Jamila McFadden, who is currently serving but would be eligible for another term on the JQC. So those are the names that are before you for your approval. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Okay, great. Whoa, opposition is increasing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. All right, thank you all for that. All right, Bill, are you ready to present to us on proposed change to Standing Board Policy 600? This is a conflict of interest proposed rule. Sorry, I crossed it off my agenda, so I assumed that y'all had done the same without me telling you to. We are not going to be dealing with Rule 1.2 Comment 9. That's going to be taken back to the Rules Committee, and then you'll see it on a future agenda. So that's all for today. Sorry about that.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. If you look on pages 34 through 39 of your board book, From time to time, we will take a look at bar policies and bylaws and suggest changes aimed toward improving and updating older policies and sometimes outdated policies and bylaws. That's what we have here. The purpose of these changes is to provide better clarity, readability, and transparency. One of the most important changes is that it requires the disclosure of a conflict of interest to the entire body, not just to the chair. There are several changes in here, and I'm not going to stand up here and read them to you unless you want me to, but I'll be glad to answer any questions. How about that? I believe a motion's in order.
Is there a motion to approve the proposed change to Standing Board Policy 600? Is there a second? Y'all have any discussion? Questions for Bill? No? Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Can't get rid of you. Wait, then this is done. Hold your horses, Ivy. Okay, let's close it. Thank you. All right, opposite, you must have done a better job than I did. Your opposition went down. Okay, Bill said he had one more item.
Okay, every year I have to ask this question of the Board of Governors for our liability insurance carrier, and they're asking for us I have to sign a warranty statement. And the only thing this says is it's just asking you, do you have any knowledge of any information or any act, error, or omission which might reasonably be expected to give rise to a coverable claim or action other than coverable claims, potential claims, or actions already reported to our insurance carrier. So if you know of something, tell me now, or either you can email me, but please don't email me and tell me, no, I don't know anything. You blew my box up last year. So anyway, this is something we have to do every year. And I just hope that the answer is no from everybody. Thanks.
So only positive responses. Okay. Ivy, will you come and give us your treasurer's report and present the state bar budget and also do the housekeeping financial resolutions? Take as much time as you want.
This might be a little longer than the roll call. Having grown up in Baptist church, I urge you to turn your board book now to page 43. I don't have I remember Daryl Sutton had a fancy presentation with all these numbers and whatnot. And as an accountant, that was a lot of numbers, even for me. Fortunately, we do have a limited number of action items that I will be going through shortly. Most of this is business as usual. And it's a kind of a quick reminder of ultimately, Bill's presentation was a great segue to the treasurer's report because we have a bar staff who is paying attention. We have people who are doing things like asking you if you know of any problems that we're not aware of. So a lot of this is business as usual. So here, how did we get where we are currently? A reminder that our annual revenue is driven by dues. Our biggest costs are operational costs associated with salaries, benefits, and those costs that help us run various programs like discipline, et cetera. We have various committees that review expenses. So you've got the personnel committee, you've got the finance committee, you got the programs committee. So we have a system of committees who are going to review any of the actual things that we do. that cause us to spend money that you then see reflected on our financial statements. If you don't like what those committees are doing, or if you would like to be a part of them, please let somebody sitting up here know. You're here because we want your input and because the people of your circuits have asked you to represent them. So please participate in the process, and we will get you signed up, and you can come have all the finance programs committee fund you want. My favorite page is page 43 of the board book. That is a nice snapshot of where we are. You have to remember the main thing here is that we're comparing March 31st. So we're going back a quarter. We've still got another quarter. We're here in the 1st of June. And so it'll be another 30 days before our bar year closes. We have one of our largest expenses of the year, this meeting, that is not yet reflected because we're not yet done with it. And so we don't have the bills, et cetera, for this. So that's not on there yet. As you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of board book page 43, we have a small budgeted deficit, but early projections make us hopeful we will close that gap and that deficit will reverse itself. In talking with staff, the primary change and improvement is because ICLE programming has come back better than expected and before we expected it to. If you remember, budgets are kind of we're throwing darts. We generally know where we're throwing darts. COVID made that process a lot more difficult. And so here we are, and things are we're back to business better than we expected to be. So ICLE is going to bring in some more money. We also have some more cross savings across the board. And again, the year doesn't close. We don't actually close the books probably until sometime August, September. And so that again is a process, and that is normal and customary. Looking at the expense side, pages 45, 46, 47, and 48, they give you a real granular detail of some of the activities that we do. Another thing to keep in mind is that we have separated our financial results into operations. So that's things like this meeting, ICLE, the programming that the bar does. And then we also have the bar center because we have a large building in downtown Atlanta, and we have several other buildings that we lease. So we have a small real estate venture as well. That takes us to page 49. On page 49 is our cash position. And so that shows you there's a lump sum at the top. And so if you went and got Ron to give you a detail, that would be cash in the bank at various deposit accounts that he just gives us a lump sum. And then we subtract out other places where cash or funds have been designated and they have been committed to a purpose, either by the individual or entity that conveyed those funds to us, or by the state bar itself and leadership. So if you remember, we had a recent increase in dues, and at that meeting, we had a very robust discussion about this $6,424,790 number right here that is called estimated cash and investments. So we expect during the upcoming bar year that there is going to be a robust discussion about that amount that has not yet been designated by the board for a purpose. Damon will address this in his report as well. And so that is going to be a focus of the upcoming bar year from the treasurer's side and from the finance committee side, because we need to figure out what we're going to do with those funds and put a label on them, have a strategy, et cetera. So overall, the state bar is in good position. We have engaged leadership. The people you see up here have been very engaged since I have been on the board, and we pay attention to the numbers. We want to make sure that we're delivering value to our members and that we're accountable to the board. We have controls in place to make sure that, for instance, we'll have an action item here that talks about who gets to sign the checks. We have a lot of checks that are dual signature. I understand that I'm going to have to get to sign a lot of checks and review things. So we're paying attention to that. We have an insurance committee who helps us confirm that we're mitigating risk, i.e. the unauthorized access issue we have. And we have an active accounting function. It's led by our CFO, Ron Turner. His people pay attention. And I think If you do have a question, you're looking through the board book and you just don't understand something, reach out to me, or reach out to Ron. You'll find that we want to help make sure that you get the information that you need. And it's important that these numbers are meaningful and that each of you can interpret their significance as we move forward through the year. So with that, that is the conclusion of my treasurer's report. And we will move on to these other important matters that you can find beginning on page 55 of your board book. Good news is there'll be no singing. Yes.
49, does that mean we've increased our extra money from 6,424,000 to an expected 7,323,000 at the end of this fiscal year?
Ron. It's down at the bottom.
On the bottom of page 49, total estimated cash balance as of June 30th. Yes, 7,000,001. That's my,
Yeah. I knew this was coming. You know, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm waiting to have to replace an elevator.
Martin, this formatting has not changed. This has always been in this format. This is divided into two different sections. The first section of the $6.4 million is for the bar itself. That latter portion is the bar center, and we haven't changed that at all. It has, the numbers have changed, the formatting has not. So I think this body in earlier meetings has always focused on that other number, but this is a common presentation and nothing that we have changed.
but the bottom number is our unallocated funds for the bar and the bar center together.
That is correct. The bar and the bar center together. That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question for Ron? Ed?
Thank you. Just looking at the line. Are they two separate entities? Is it, or is it just one pot of money with just two different buckets that you keep cash allocated?
Legally, they're not two separate entities, but it is one kind of bucket and then it's allocated.
So really the cash on hand is over 7 million, and then you've just kind of divided it between, we need this for the bar center and the other 6 million for bar operations.
Yeah, and it's not arbitrarily allocated, but it's based upon, we keep track of each portion separately. So we keep track of bar operations separately, and we keep track of the bar center operations separately. So that's why we break this down separately as well.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Run, Ron. Okay. Hearing no further questions, that concludes my treasurer's report. And next we have item E in your board book, which we'll be looking at pages 55 through 84. These are the 2022 through 2023 state bar budgets that require approval by this body. Does anybody have any questions about the budgets? Hearing no questions, I'll turn to Madam Treasurer to call for a vote for the consideration of these action items, of this action item.
Is there a motion on the 2022, 2023 state bar budget? Is there a motion to approve it? Is there a second? Is there any further discussion or questions? Okay, Jennifer. Okay, let's close it. Oh, 10%. All right, Ivy, I think you're back
I
up.
got one more.
Yeah.
Two more. Next, on page 85 of your board book. Good news, this is my last one. On page 85 of your board book, you'll find financial resolutions that authorize the president to secure blanket position bonds for the officers and staff. They designate depositories for general operations of the state bar. And we employ our independent accounting firm to audit the financial records of the state bar for our previous fiscal year. That's 2021 through 2022. Does anyone have any questions presented beginning on page 85? Just on page 85. Hearing no questions, I hope this concludes my portion of the program and turn this back over to Madam President.
All right, is there a motion to approve the financial resolutions found on page 85 of your board book discussed by Ivy? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Okay, Jennifer? All right, let's close it. All right, you're doing better, Ivy. All right, the next item on the agenda is the election schedule for next year. This is something that comes before the Board of Governors every year to approve the election schedule and so that everyone has notice of it and it's had your eyeballs on it. So if you look at page 86 of your board book, you will see that election schedule. Is there a motion to approve that election schedule? Is there a second? Any discussion? Great, thanks, y'all. The next item on the agenda is a proposed change to the investment policy of the state bar, and I'm asking Tony Del Campo to present that to y'all.
All right, good morning, folks. It's a pleasure to be here with you. If you saw my wife with a sling, it was not an act of domestic abuse. She took a fall, but she's doing fine. Thank you for all of your thoughts and concerns for her. She's resting in the room, and we hope to be on the dance floor at some point this evening. I come before you today for an action item, which is to approve the proposed changes to the investment policy. They can be found on pages 87 through 96 of your board book. This has been vetted by our investment committee headed by Nancy Whaley. Nancy, are you here? I know she was here earlier. Oh, there you are. So if you have any questions, ask her. We're very good at that up here. But this was brought up on the April 19th meeting of the investment committee. And a request was made from for our advisors to, give us, some guidance on what to do with the money and how we are investing our money. our investment advisors at the following meeting on July 15th presented the information to the committee. The committee unanimously approved the recommended changes to our investment policy. That information was again presented on October 15th because it had already been approved. It didn't need to be approved again. Then it came before the executive committee in December of 2021, where our advisors presented that information. During our February meeting of the executive committee, we approved those changes by a majority vote. And then it was an information item during the spring Board of Governors meeting in Athens. Now we need to vote on those proposed changes. So I don't know if you want to take the vote, Madam President, or I can do it. Is there a motion to approve the changes to our investment policy? A second, all right. Any questions to that change, those changes? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All right, let's close the vote. All right, thank you, folks.
All right, thank you, Tony. Thank you all for your attention to that. The next item on the agenda is the executive committee elections. And I would like to now open the floor for nominations to fill the 3 open seats on the executive committee. Would anyone like to nominate anyone to be on the executive committee? I hope this goes without saying, but please keep them, as short as possible to honor everyone's time. If you'll give 5 minutes for a nomination and 2 for a second, that'd be great. And I see Mr. Hal Daniel.
Thank you. Past presidents of the bar did not have a vote on this board, but we do have privileges of the floor. And so I would like to place in nomination the name of William C. Bill Gentry for a second term on the executive committee. I've known Bill since he was in law school at the University of Georgia. My firm before Holland & Knight was called Webb & Daniel, and we recruited Bill to be an associate in the firm. And I had the privilege of practicing law with him for a number of years. I remember in particular one case in which he served as second chair and helped me try in federal court. We represented a client called General Handbag Company. The CEO looked like Howard Hughes. Some of you can form an image of him if you remember Howard Hughes. But what this company did was they would send representatives to the fashion shows in Europe, in Paris and Milan, and they would look for the latest designs of ladies' handbags. And then when they found handbags they liked, they would buy one of each, and then they would take them to China and have them copied and what we call knockoffs, kind of like, the Rolex watches you can buy on the street. In any event, it was a very challenging case. I wish I had more time to tell you about it, but see me at the cocktail hour if you'd like to know more. In any event, Bill helped me try that case, and it would lasted about a week in federal court. And those of you who do trial work know that when you have a long case, a difficult case, for about a month, that's all you can deal with. You up late at night, you work weekends. And so you get to know the members of your trial team very, very well. And I found that one of 2 things happens after you have a long trial like that, and you work closely with another lawyer on your team. You either bond for life, or after the trial, you never want to see that person again. In this instance, Bill Gentry and I bonded for life. I followed his career since he moved out to Cobb County, and of course he has a very successful practice, as his own law firm, and he has been president of the Cobb County Bar, and has made major contributions, on this board. I would just close by saying one other thing. And the past presidents very often come to these meetings and we sit back on the back row and we watch and we listen to what you are doing. And sometimes when I hear the problems that you're dealing with, I think, you know, that sounds like the same problem that I dealt with, that George Mundy dealt with, and Jim Elliott, and Bobby Chastain, people who were presidents 20 or more years ago. But upon examination, it's not really what Yogi Berra called deja vu all over again. Actually, the problems have changed. They may sound similar, may sound identical, but they're not. They're like the coronavirus. They mutate and they take on new forms and require different approaches. I think Bill Gentry is the kind of leader you need, because when you deal with these new problems, you need leaders who can analyze the problems and receive new information, which may contrast with a position that leader has taken or belief that leader has held. And upon evaluation of this new information, if the new information is verified and determined to be accurate, it can require a change of course. It can require an adjustment to the plan or the policies. It's really what Kirby Smart would call a halftime adjustment. And sometimes, you know, your team is not doing well in the first half. You can't score on the other team, or maybe you can't stop the other team. And at halftime, you make some adjustments and you can still win the game. Well, many of these problems, they come forward and they require new solutions. They require a fresh approach. And I think that Bill Gentry is the kind of lawyer who can do that. I think he's the kind of lawyer who can receive and analyze new information and, if necessary, make a course adjustment, a halftime adjustment to take on the problem. He's a lawyer of great intelligence and ability. He is a lawyer of utmost integrity, and he's innovative, and I commend him to you highly for another term on the executive committee. Thank you.
I see Andy Davis coming to second that nomination. 2 minutes. 5 for a nomination.
2 minutes. Well, good morning. My name's Andy Davis and I'm from Rome. I've known Bill Gentry since law school. And Bill asked me and requested me to second his nomination. And so I said, Bill, why me? And his first comment was, well, after Hal Daniels nominates me, I'm concerned that there may be people from the floor that may rise up and run against me. So I'm having to make a halftime adjustment because Hal did a great job in nominating Bill. And since I only have 2 minutes, and as immediate past president Elizabeth Veit said yesterday, you know, executive committee nominations seem to go on forever. And then she talked about how lawyers are demanding. Well, one of the things that Bill told me was, I demand that you make sure no one stands up and runs against me. It's okay, I'll do the best I can, but Bill, I mean, you gave me a resume, you wrote out my speech to hand to me. I've tried everything I can to make sure no one would rise up against you. But I'll try not to disappoint Elizabeth in making this the longest 2 minutes of that runs on forever. I'll also mention a few things that I probably shouldn't say about Bill from law school. Well, my devotion told me this morning to love your neighbors as yourself, so I'll skip that. Bill is a lay leader in the Methodist Church. He's been a lay leader in 3 different churches, and he now serves as the chair of some huge committee in the North Georgia Conference for the United Methodist Church. So if anybody's thinking about running against Bill, one, you got to deal with the Methodists from Cobb County. You're going to have to deal with the wrath of God. And then if anybody else is going to oppose Bill, you've got to look around and look at the committees that he's been on. He's a member of the Old Warhorse Club. He's a member of the Lawyers Club. He's co-chair of the Aging Lawyers Task Force. And he's also chair of the Senior Lawyers Committee. Well, if you run against him, then you're going to have to deal with Bill's friends from Lawton Stevens Happy Acres Convalescent Center that's going to come sit with you. So as President Sally said, let's be kind. Be kind. Please don't run against Bill. And vote for Bill because he's an easygoing, he's a great guy in spite of what Hal said, in spite of what training Hal gave him. Please vote for Bill. Thanks.
Are there any other nominations for the executive committee? All right, there's 2 more spots, folks. I see past President John Jones walking to the podium. 5 minutes, Don.
For drama, we were trying to be last, but we decided to pop up here. Good morning. My 5 minutes haven't started yet, by the way.
I'm looking at
Wait a minute. Okay. It's my distinct pleasure to rise and nominate Martin Enrique Valbuena for re-election to the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. I've worked closely with Martin on the EC for the last 2 years, and I believe his skills and qualifications continue to make him a great representative and fervent advocate for all Georgia Bar members. Couple of reasons. Martin's smart. He received his Juris Doctorate from Washington College of Law at American University in Washington, D.C. He received his Bachelor's of Arts degree from Davidson College, North Carolina. He's had a variety of experiences in the legal profession, another reason you should vote for him. Since April of 2001, Martin has operated his own law firm, Martin Enrique Valbuena, PC in Dallas, Georgia, running a general practice focusing on family law and plaintiff's personal injury, as well as wills, probate, criminal, and traffic matters, and general civil litigation. For 20 years, he also served as Paulding County Magistrate Court Judge in Dallas, Georgia, having been first appointed in September of 2002 and winning election or re-election a total of 5 times. In this job as Chief Magistrate Judge, he oversees all aspects of running their county magistrate court, including administrative budget, sitting as judge for court sessions, and making judicial assignments for 2 other magistrates. He works closely with the court clerk regarding budget and personnel matters and with various county officials regarding budget and other administrative issues. From September 2002 through March of 2011, Martin served as a judge on the City of Hiram Municipal Court in Hiram, Georgia. There he sat 3 days a month hearing all arraignments and trials of traffic and city ordinance violations, and also handled first appearances and bond hearings when needed. His diverse legal experience also includes working in a small firm on plaintiff's personal injury and family law matters in Austell, Georgia, working for Webb, Carlock, Copeland, Semlar, and Stayer in Atlanta on insurance defense matters, and working at a 300 lawyer firm in Dallas, Texas, not Georgia, on business and commercial litigation matters. And as a first-year lawyer, Martin clerked for Justice Howard M. Kirschbaum, not to be confused with Seth, Kirschenbaum, on the Colorado Supreme Court in Denver. Third, he's an experienced bar leader. For the past 18 years, which surprised me when I found this out, Martin has served as a member of the Board of Governors, representing the Paulding Judicial Circuit since 2004. And for the past 2 years, he served with me on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia, where he only missed 1 meeting, and I am certain he felt guilty about it because his daughter's wedding conflicted with an EC meeting. Few fun facts about Martin that I will close with. Did you know that he enjoys competing in triathlons and road races? I didn't know that either. He's also an active member of his church, St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church. He's also a member of the local Knights of Columbus, which I got to tell you, gave me a little red flag when I hear words like knights or brotherhoods. Get a little nervous. So I had to look that up. For real, I looked it up. A little nervous. I was not surprised to find that the Knights of Columbus is a brotherhood of Catholic missionaries who put action into their faith beliefs. And Martin is that type of person. Let me just take a minute to tell you about who he is and who I've gotten to know over the last several years at bar meetings, and certainly the last 2 years as a fellow member of the executive committee. Martin's not only fun and likable, he's principled, he's conscientious. He never forgets who he serves and who he represents in EC meetings. And I think most importantly, he's not only willing to do the hard work, but also to make the hard decisions. I consider him a good friend, and I'd ask for you to vote for Martin Balbuena for another term on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Whaley, and thank you so much for making my morning so easy with that vote on the investment committee. So please help me be just as successful in my nomination for Martin Balbuena to be reelected to his seat on the Board of Governors. I got to know Martin when he came on the Board of Governors in 2004, but I really got to know him when he was appointed to the Finance Committee. I was the chair some of that time period on the Finance Committee, and I always appreciated the members that would show up, that would be prepared, that participated, and they really asked the hard questions. And as you just saw this morning, Martin's not afraid to stand up and ask some of those questions. He's always about that. He cares about the actions of the committee, and then he also cares about how our actions on the Finance Committee, how they're going to be received by this body. Our roles were reversed a few years later when I was appointed to the Programs Committee and Martin was the chair. He ran a great meeting. He gave everyone the opportunity to be heard, but he also, again, was willing to take on some of those hard tasks and reviewing of all of the programs that we had to go through. If you've ever had to review programs for the State Bar, you know how difficult it is because people are very passionate about their programs and what they bring to our members. So it's a difficult process to go through and be critical of some of those programs. But watching Martin in our Board of Governors meeting, the Finance Committee and the Programs Committee, it's why I'm supporting his reelection to our Executive Committee. I served on the Executive Committee for 6 years, and I know that we don't elect people to the Executive Committee or even to this body for the routine matters. We elect them for when the decisions are tough and hard choices have to be made. I'm confident that Martin will not shy away from having his voice heard, and he won't be shy or and not willing to take on those tough choices. Our president and our officers of the bar, we need those people during those tough times to remain professional and reasonable. And I've never seen Martin ever lose his cool or be anything but professional and respectful. As a member at large, Martin's role is to represent us, all of us as Board of Governor members. And I'm confident that just as he has in the last few years, he will continue to do that. So please rise up and join in voting for Martin to be a strong voice for the lawyers of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I see Seth Kirschenbaum by Zoom for a nomination.
Good morning. My name is Seth Kirschenbaum, and I proudly rise to nominate Nikki Vaughn for another term on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. First, I want to echo what Sally said and commend Elizabeth Fite, our other leaders, Damon Elmore and the staff of the bar for their tremendous efforts in dealing with the hack of our website. I can't imagine what you have been going through to address this challenge. They say there's the bar year you plan for and the bar year you get. And this one was a doozy. So thank you. I also want to extend my congratulations to Sally Akins and wish you good fortune and a less interesting year. But I digress. I'm here to tell you about Nikki Vaughn. And I'm hoping, could you please enable screen sharing? Is that possible? That's a picture of Nikki from olden days before the pandemic. Nikki is in the middle accepting the Good Apple Award from Georgia Appleseed given to the Child Protection and Advocacy section. Over on the right is Nikki's husband, David, and there's Dawn Jones and Judge Ken Hodges and General Counsel Paula Frederick and Phyllis Holman and other dignitaries. So put down your smartphones, look up from your crossword puzzles, Facebook pages, Instagram feeds, Twitter and TikTok videos, and lend me your ears. Nikki Vaughn has served honorably and ably on the executive committee since 2014. She is a voice of conscience and reason, and her soft-spoken demeanor belies her fierce defense of the rights and interests of the vulnerable in society. For the past 17 years, Nikki has worked as a public defender in Hall County and currently leads their operations in the juvenile court, among other responsibilities. Nikki currently serves on the special committee on the delivery of legal services in response to the coronavirus pandemic, affectionately known by its acronym, the SCD-LSRCP. Nikki's bar and community service activities are incredibly broad and demonstrate how indefatigable Nikki is in her pursuit of justice and fair play. Nikki's leadership affiliations include Georgia Appleseed, Georgia Legal Services, the Georgia Association of Counsel for Children, the Junior League, CASA, the E. Wycliffe Inn of Court, and many more. In fact, it's so hard to sum up Nikki's contributions that in an effort to capsulize Nikki's value to society and to the bar, I've composed a little poem to help you remember why you should vote for her. Nikki is the greatest. She is swell. She gives her all to whatever she does, and she does it all quite well. Nikki is fun, and she is cool, and she is a wonderful friend. She's smart and she's tough, and she cares about you, and she's someone on whom we depend. She's done a great job on the committee, though it sometimes brings her to tears. In any event, I ask for your vote to give Nikki 2 more years. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. I think I see Joyce Chris Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everybody. It is my honor to second the nomination of Nikki Vaughn to the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. I first met Nikki the way that I anticipate many of you met Nikki, which is through her service to the bar. I was invited to join what was then the Wellness Task Force, which became the State Bar Attorney Wellness Committee. And Nikki was on the committee as well. And we found ourselves as co-chairs of a subcommittee. And it was through that work that I had the privilege of getting to know her better. But a few months later, I was privileged to be asked to join the board of the Federal Defender Program. Any guesses who else showed up as a new board member? This story is not unusual to anyone who knows Nikki or to anyone who has opened the list of the bar's standing committees, and Seth mentioned some of them, but access to justice, children in the courts, senior lawyers, indigent defense, child protection and advocacy section, which she helped form in 2012 and up until last year chaired. That devotion to service and what appears to be her, he said, did he say indefatigable? I thought it was indefatigable, but indefatigable devotion to service is really her hallmark. I mean, that's what I think about when I think of her. I think of a lawyer who has spoken for the least of these. She has commented in her materials her written materials that she submitted in advance of this meeting. She is a singular voice as far as representation of that part of our Georgia community. And it's important. We've heard a lot about representation matters. Part of representation is having a diversity of voices and a diversity of people who represent different segments of our state, of the population that we are privileged to be able to serve. We need that voice on the executive committee. And I respectfully ask that you vote to return Nikki to the executive committee for 2 more years. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Are there any other nominations for the executive committee? Is there a second? Okay. Congratulations, Martin, Nikki, and Bill. Okay, next on your agenda is approval of the Georgia Legal Services Program appointments. Do we have those, or are they on the board book, just 97? Okay, if you look at page 97 in your board book, you'll see it's Seth Bruckner, Marquetta Bryan, Laverne Lewis Gaskins, and Matthew Howell. Do I have a motion to approve those appointments? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Right. Okay, thank you. Gary, I wasn't looking at the board book. I was looking at my cheat sheet here. Okay, well, anybody know the answer to this question? Right, so there's just one extra. Can we just do a slide and add Keyshawn's name? Oh, I do. Yeah, okay, all right. Do you have a motion, Gary? Okay, is there a second? Any discussion? Well, the motion is to add him. The motion is not to approve. Bill? All right, so all of those in favor of adding Keyshawn Davis to the slate of GLSP appointees, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, if you're on Zoom and you're opposed, please put it in chat. That's okay though now. It's okay. Okay, okay. All right. Did I already have a motion on the, no, we didn't. Is there a motion to approve Seth Bruckner, Marquetta Bryan, Keyshawn Davis, Laverne Lewis Gaskins, and Matthew Howell as the appointees for the Georgia Legal Services Program? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Okay. Thank you, Gary, for getting me straight. Okay, vote. If you voted the first time when I had a little false start there, vote again, please. Okay, let's close it. All right. Thank you all. The next action item is a vote on whether a vote to approve the Chief Justice Commission on Professionalism appointment. This is a lay person appointment, and that person is Kathy Clark Tyler. It's a 3-year term. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All right. Okay, that's good. Close it, please. Oh, wow. Everybody likes Kathy. Okay. Thank you all for your vote on that. The next item on the agenda gives me happiness when I see it. And that is the election of our executive director. You heard Elizabeth say yesterday that we instituted a new review process this year, which had a self-assessment component, a peer assessment component, and then input from the personnel committee. All of that process has taken place, and before you is this item is on the agenda with the unanimous support of the personnel committee and the executive committee. Do we have a motion on electing Damon Elmore as your executive director? Do we have a second? Is there any discussion? Oh, you're funny, Dawn. Yeah. Would you accept if so elected? Okay. Right. Y'all all vote yes. Don't make him feel bad. All right, let's close it. Oh, close, Damon. Okay. All right, Damon, since you now are the executive director, you can give your report.
Yeah, for those that voted no, I have an application. Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Supreme Court, members of the Board of Governors, and friends. I appreciate this opportunity to come before you with remarks and an update on our bar operations. Before I begin, I want to thank you for your vote of confidence and extension of my term as Executive Director. I do not take it for granted. I do not take the opportunity for granted to continue to work with an amazing team as we support the mission of the bar and provide value for our members. I am grateful. As we begin this bar year, we are still confident and optimistic in our position in the way we will support our members in the new bar year and beyond, even in the current period we find ourselves in. But I said it before, and I will always be reminded of the words of Saint Benedict when he tells us, always we begin again. In the past, we have taken advantage of these updates to provide a recap of our work in the period leading up to the meeting. For the annual, it has been a review of the full year. However, I get the sense that there are only a few things that are of primary interest and for which I will share an update. That includes our work related to long-term financial planning and unallocated cash, a brief update on our ICLE department since I have the mic, next steps in the process related to our coastal Georgia office, and a quick point of personal privilege with respect to a special wellness initiative. In fact, we can go ahead and knock that out right away. Ivy, will you tell us how many steps you've walked since you've been here this?
15,000.
Yeah, good, good. Ivy has trekked back and forth from the villas. And I guess you want to hear a couple of things about the recent unauthorized access to our networks. That's understandable. In fact, I hear there's a bingo card floating around that may track how many times certain technically related jargon is used in this report. And to that, I say good luck. But another time you'll hear me boast about our staff and the work that they put in, not only carrying out our daily tasks, but how they've gone above and beyond the call of duty to support our members and our overall mission of improving the quality of legal services. Not because they had to, but because we want to. Every department. We've said hello to some faces since our last meeting, and we said goodbye to a couple others. We are grateful to all of them in different ways. They've made contributions for many, many years, and we look forward to the good work that the new folk will bring next year and beyond. But back to the good stuff. As it relates to our pledge to begin the process of taking a deeper look at our financial position and take a particular focus on unallocated cash and investments, the report is that we have not forgotten your charge. Admittedly, we are a bit behind due to unpreventable circumstances, but we heard you and we started the work internally. We've also enlisted our auditing partners to provide a true and comprehensive professional recommendation. We have a decent map, and we still feel confident in providing a quality report in time for our fall meeting. We could not be more pleased with the direction of our ICLE department. That is due in part to a greater ability to put on programming. It is due in part to the patience and renewed and ongoing partnerships with our sections, related organizations, individuals, and others that serve as program chairs, planners, or in another capacity as a valuable stakeholder and partner with the program. We are grateful to you all. But it is mainly due to the work of the department and the men, women, and people that are a microcosm of the aforementioned dedicated team members. They too are working hard and making contributions with their sweat equity and ideas that will benefit the program and in the paramount process of continued legal education in the short and long term. Our search for a new director is underway, and soon that person will be able to carry out the vision of the department on a day in and day out basis. Thank God. But until then, we will plan quality programming. We will be creative in program content and delivery. We will take advantage of opportunities to provide member value and return by analyzing pricing or relaxing certain fees or charges or doing whatever is necessary and makes sense for the department to be the go-to provider of legal education. I promise. Last year, we provided notice that we would not renew our lease for our current space in Savannah. As we've also updated, we provided notice earlier this year that we will exit the Bay Street location in October. We are actively evaluating responses to our multiple requests for proposals and believe we are close on landing a next location. Thank you to all of you that have provided your input and feedback, especially our friends in my beloved Savannah and the surrounding 912 area. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit more about our data incident. By now, I have likely bored many of you with updates and reports and notes and statuses, almost as much as I've talked about my trip to Sierra Leone. So if you sneak out right now, I ain't mad. Others may have had a chance to look at the memo we provided to the executive committee recently and published in our board book, or stayed in the know with the updates we provided on our website, our email, our social media, our carrier pigeons, or you may have read some of the other recent reporting related to the event. All of it is accurate. So I won't spend too much time rehashing those facts, but I will tell you these things. Recently, I heard this technical interruption described as the most significant event to happen to the bar in its existence. So I asked David Lipscomb. I asked him what it was like in the 80s and the 90s for the field of lawyer associations. And of course, I'm talking about the 1880s and 1890s. I joke because for a long time it's been serious. The event and then the scenarios and the potential consequences are nothing to joke about. For 37 days, it has been the singular most important thing that we have been focused on. But today, we feel better. We find ourselves in a period of rebuilding and restoration, and it will be better. We are still optimistic that it may not have been an invasive intrusion. The core part of our forensics analysis completed on Tuesday, so soon we will have an update on any additional findings. It appears a large focus has been on our email servers and monkey business that may have occurred there. But every day we do more and we build more. Little by little, but quickly, we're building a better website. Little by little, but quickly, member access to databases for the work that we do in departments like CCLC, membership, the Office of the General Counsel, sections, and everything in between is being restored. Little by little, but quickly. So stop me in the hall if you need more, but in addition to that, help me with a favor. If you ever see a member of our IT department, thank them. When you see Paula and Ron and Sarah and Bill, thank them. When you see another member of our staff, especially communications, thank them. When you brag about this meeting, thank Gaiki and Danielle and Mary, all who delivered and were integral in the preparation in spite of the computer thingy. When you see Elizabeth and the executive committee, thank them. Thank Justice Namias and Justices Peterson and Warren. Thank our forensics and cyber partners. Thank Sheila and Joe outside from Fastcase for their pivot related to legal research. Join me when I thank our programmer, Marshall, and all of the other contractors for getting us back to work. Please thank them, for it could be worse, but instead we are better. Now, it's time to get back into the groove of supporting our staff and carrying out the work of this board and board leadership. That's it. This office still has no agenda or program or plan. The aim is to simply make sure that our processes and people are best suited to do that work. We will take full advantage of that space and deliver results. And now a true point of personal privilege. We started this bar year with David Namias as our Chief Justice and Elizabeth Fite as our President. It has been an honor to work with both of them during such a unique time. They are also the definition of service to the public and to the profession and add a unique dash of attention to detail, and I am grateful for their partnership and friendship and support. That's all I got. Back to work.
Thank you, Damon. At this time, I'd like to call, well, we're going to do the officer and executive committee expense and reimbursement policy as an informational item. So she's already doing it, but I was going to ask her to come down here in her hot pants. Elizabeth Fite.
Living that past president life. Good morning, everybody. Madam President, if I may first, I would like to recognize a special guest that we have here today that I believe is a first-time Board of Governors member attendee, and that would be Miss Mo Hummel. Mo, can you wave and say hi to everybody? Also, just to echo what Damon said, you know, if y'all could all just do us a favor and go find a staff member at the registration desk or somewhere here and just walk up to them and say thank you. It means a lot to them. And y'all are so good that you always reach out to us and tell us when the meeting feels like a success, but they need to hear it. We're good about relaying it to them, but it would matter to them. So with that, let's talk about some more money. So in pages 98 to 105 of your board book, we have some revisions to an officer and executive committee expense and reimbursement policy. You'll notice over the past few years, we make slight tweaks to these things. This is just informational only. We're going to vote on it at some later point when Madam President decides that we are, but we wanted to give this to you now so that you could study it. Some of the tweaks are housekeeping. Some of them just make more sense sort of with the current landscape and travel expense, with inflation and things like that. But the one thing I did want to highlight that could be of note to you that you would want to study and have conversations with people about later is on page 100. We have updated the executive committee members and non-officers reimbursement policy to include an up to $3,000 per year reimbursement for the at-large members of the executive committee. That is to apply to the meetings that the executive committee have outside of their board of governors meetings. So we did that. We had a lot of discussions about that because the hope was to perhaps get more people involved. We know it's a heavy lift to attend all these meetings, the Board of Governors meetings, but then in addition, some years, especially pre-pandemic, we used to have a meeting every month and we traveled to a different location. So those costs can add up. So I encourage you all to look at it. If you have questions, you can feel free to ask me or anybody on the EC about it. And I appreciate that. Have fun.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Ron, you want to come and give the YLD report comments?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start by acknowledging something. I believe if my math is right, and that's somewhat of a feat for me most times. I went to law school, even though I took accounting for lawyers with a great professor named Ivy Cadle. Math is not my strong suit, but I believe it has been about 44 years, that would be bar year 1977 to 1978, that someone from Eastman, Georgia stood up here as president of either the big bar or the young lawyers section at the time, or now young lawyers division, and that having been Mr. Wilton Harrington. To paraphrase a popular TikTok trend, it's about dang time. It is a pleasure to be here in front of you this morning. I promise I will not be as silly as I was last night. If you missed our YLD dinner, you missed a show. And I believe both Mr. Cadle and Mr. Twyman would agree that if you're not coming to the YLD dinners and the YLD events, you're actually missing something that you should be joining in on. There are too many people for me to thank. I am going to thank a few people because they are in this room and they are meaning a lot to me. I want to thank Alyssa Haynes. She had a great year as YLD president. She went through a lot. Of course, we've all been through uncertainty, but her, along with President Fight, managed to get us through it. I'm very proud to say that I've sort of jump-started Alyssa in leadership in the YLD, and it is a very humbling experience to be taking the proverbial baton from someone you helped get started in leadership. I want to thank Bill Neesmith. I didn't tell him I was going to say this, but Bill Neesmith is the first lawyer I ever remember interacting with. And for some reason, he agreed to take an intern from his business law class at Georgia Southwestern State University to come to his law firm and basically run errands. But he also let me draft an ordinance for the city of Lumpkin. He let me go watch 2 civil jury trials. I think Judge Smith is back there, and he probably doesn't remember me sitting in and watching one of those jury trials, but Bill had 2 civil jury trials in his judicial circuit, which in a 3-month period was quite uncommon, but I got to watch 2 as an undergrad and sort of solidified my decision to go to law school. I do want to thank Ivy Cadle, who has been a mentor of mine. There's so many people, though, that have been involved with me being in bar leadership and getting to where I am. And I can't thank all of them. It's just not possible. I wrote on Facebook last night, and what I said last night was that I made a promise to the Young Lawyers Division. I love the Young Lawyers Division. It has been probably the most consistent thing in the last 10 years of my life. And I can't go around thanking everybody, but I will thank you and thank all of them with my service to that organization. And we're getting back to work. There are 2 people that are not here that I want to mention. Both of them have aged out or aging out in July. That being Ryan English, who is an assistant district attorney now in Houston County. We borrowed him for the Oconee Judicial Circuit for a couple of years, and we miss him already. And Carlos Vila, who is staff attorney to Judge Jane Manning up in Cobb County, both of whom have been sounding boards for me for the past 8 years, and sort of have helped me craft a lot of the decisions that I've made in bar leadership. And with that, I'm going to ask Michael to bring up my first slide, because Ryan aptly decided to title what we're going to be doing this next bar year as going back to the future. No, it's not a Ghostbusters reference, which probably shocks all of you. But we're going to address the pause. That's what I'm calling it. We've lost a lot of new leaders, new lawyers that we would have otherwise had involved in the Young Lawyers Division in the bar, because they came into the practice and into the profession at a time when they took a bar exam that was completely virtual. They may have gotten sworn in virtually. They may not have been going to the office and working with their colleagues or their partners and learning the way we've all traditionally learned, and learned about bar service and bar involvement the way we all previously have learned. So one of the major things I took an effort to do in identifying who would be committee chairs and directors is finding people that aren't involved. I went and purposely looked for people that were interesting, not interesting because they've been doing something in particular, but interesting because they come from a diverse background. They come from diverse parts of the state, and they have diverse ideas. But the singular thing that I can say about all of them is that they were motivated people. And that's what I wanted, is I wanted motivated committee chairs who were bringing new, fresh faces, new, fresh ideas. I think we've assembled a pretty good team. But what I'll tell you is it's going to be messy. It's going to be messy because we're not just going to do things because that's the way we've always done it. We have two new newsletter editors, Jenna Emery and Virginia Josie. It's somewhat magical. We had a planning meeting a couple of weeks ago. They had not talked at all beforehand, and it was like they were reading from the same verse, same page, same book. We're not just going to put out a newsletter like we normally have. We're not going to just do anything like we just normally have. We're going to question why we do it. We're going to evaluate if there's a better way to do it. We may try a different way to do something. It may not work. Too bad. We're going to get up and go at it again if it doesn't work. If it does work, great. I fell down a lot when I was riding a bicycle. I fell down a lot when I was running through the yard. Granny always just told me I had to pick myself back up. And if I didn't pick myself up and throw a fit, Granny would get a switch, and that was always worse. I'm sorry, I'm from South Georgia, if you didn't know. But we're also going to try to increase our deliverables. I told everybody last night that I wanted Jessica Oglesby to call all the young lawyers organizations throughout the world, collect, and tell them that they're going to be playing catch-up ball. We're not going to be second place to anybody. And I mean it. We're not. We're going to put forth the work. We're going to go back to work. And I'm just unrelentless. I don't have the thesaurus to use all these big words like indefatigable or investiture or any of that. I'm from Ryan, Georgia, but we're going to work hard. So I'm going to tell you what we're going and where we're doing. We're going to have our Wile D Officer and Director extended meeting the first weekend in August at Little Old Muggy State Park in McRae, Georgia. It's a great little place. I grew up going there thinking it was basically Disney World. They had a slide and they had a sandbox and seesaws and all those great things, but they have a great lodge. And candidly, part of the idea is to put all of us together and to sit down in a remote location and go to work, talk about ideas, to evaluate how we can do things and what we can do together as a Young Lawyers Division. But then we are going to Disney World. You will be surprised to know that I managed to convince another bar organization to basically assume the liability of us going to Disney World. Don't ask, but it happened. And then I convinced Damon and Ron to agree to do it. Candidly, I think Ron just agrees with me because we get confused when people say Ron in EC meetings because we don't really ever know which one we're talking to. But generally, if it involves numbers, Ron Turner's the guy. And if it's something else, I think Ron just hopes I have some kind of squirrely answer to give. But we're not only going by ourselves, though, we're going with Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, and Alabama's YLDs, and having a regional conference. For the first time ever, this has been done. And we're going to have over 5 hours of CLEs. We've got a lot of speakers lined up. We have every state bar association is contributing. Everybody is putting in and putting forth the CLE, and it's going to be a great event. We're going to have our mid-year meeting in conjunction with y'all. And that's where I want to bring up a point of something we are doing differently. You'll notice that I have an additional ribbon this morning. It's a burgundy ribbon. It's something that Jessica Oglesby came up with, and I thought was a great idea. And candidly, I didn't tell her I was going to do this, but if you see someone with a burgundy ribbon, not just today at the annual meeting, but at any of your BOG meetings, go talk to them. This means that they're a young lawyer. I promise we don't bite. If you do run into a very small little girl with a big ribbon in her hair that looks somewhat kind of like me, you may get assaulted with a stuffed animal, but she may bite as well. But nobody else with one of these ribbons will bite, I promise. Talk to us. We need mentors. We need mentors for bar service. We need mentors so that we can learn from y'all. This is a tough profession. Y'all all know that. But if we don't have dialogue and talk to each other, we're all just adrift. And so I would encourage you, if you see someone with one of these ribbons, talk to them. Don't talk to them about work, just talk to them about anything. We're going to have our annual meeting in conjunction with the Board of Governors, of course. We don't have a summer meeting anymore, so we will be in Savannah with everybody. And that's the plans for having meetings. I appreciate y'all giving me a little bit of time this morning. Madam President, I look forward to working with you, and I am sorry that you're going to have to deal with my insanity, but we're going to get through it together. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ron. It sounds like the young lawyers are going to be busy. Next on the agenda, we have the Chief Justice Commission on Professionalism Report. Is Carlise here to? Sorry? Oh, sorry. I was looking over there. Carlise Greer, the Executive Director.
Good morning. How's everyone today? I want to just take a moment to highlight a couple of things from the written report that you'll find in your board books. So to our Chief Justice, members of the Supreme Court, our judges and lawyers, thank you for allowing me to speak to you for a few minutes today. I want to take a moment to thank Chief Justice Namias, the Commission's current chair, whose term will be ending July 17th, and to welcome our new chair, who will begin July 18th, Presiding Justice Michael P. Boggs. We have several members, advisors, and liaisons from the commission here. And if you all could stand for a moment or wave your hands if you're here in the room. And I know there's some behind me as well. Thank you all. One person that I do want to acknowledge who is not with us here today, who has been a longstanding advisor to the commission, is Jennifer Davis Ward. And I echo everything that Sally said so eloquently earlier, but Jennifer has been very active in working with the commission, particularly on our grants, which I'll speak about in a moment. So I could not let this moment go without just sending good thoughts her way in this very difficult time. The commission is currently offering grants to promote legal professionalism. The grant period opened June 1st, and I don't have a clicker. Yes, thank you. The grant period opened June 1st and will end July 15th. Last year, the commission awarded 4 grants, and I want to tell you just a little bit about them. So as you're thinking about grants, please share this information with your networks. Think about if you're involved with an organization that may want to promote legal professionalism, look very carefully at our grant criteria. As I mentioned, Jennifer was one of the folks working with our grant judge, Susan Etline. I don't know if she's here. One of our board members, Judge Pinson, was one of our advisors, Bert Hummel. Those were some of our grant committee members who helped select the crop of grants that we awarded earlier. One was to the Horace Johnson Peer Court, and that was to help establish new diversion type courts within the juvenile delinquency system in 3 different jurisdictions within Georgia. We awarded a grant to the Truancy Intervention Project in Fulton County to help provide professionalism, cultural competency training for attorneys who do pro bono work with children who are truant. We awarded a grant to the Mediation Center of Coastal Empire to help provide professionalism training related to ADR matters, and then to the Administrative Office of the Courts Access to Justice Committee, who works in conjunction with the Georgia Justice Project to provide training for attorneys that help provide expungement clinics and to establish some new clinics throughout the state of Georgia. And that's typically a project that's in conjunction with a local judge in a community. And they've been doing these around the state, and that helped them to expand some of these. So that gives you an example of some of the grants that were selected by our grant committee last year. Again, the grant period ends July 15th for applications, and please visit our website, look very carefully at our grant criteria, and submit an application for consideration. Next, I wanted to, sorry, going the wrong way. Jennifer. There we go. Okay. Law school orientations on professionalism. The State Bar of Georgia Committee on Professionalism, who is chaired by Josh Bozen. I don't know if Josh is in the room today. And this is actually a picture of Josh from 2021 at Georgia State University, where he served as one of our group leaders. The commission helps to staff these law school orientations on professionalism, and we hold them at all 5 of the law schools to help promote professionalism from the moment a new lawyer begins their career as a law student, and to talk to them about the importance of professionalism. We also, as a committee, look at hypothetical problems that we use each year for the law schools, and we have law students to help us in revising those problems, and you'll find their names in the board book. And so the whole process of developing these is infused with training and teaching throughout the entire process. This works because we have typically 100+ lawyers and judges who volunteer as group leaders to lead small breakout groups to talk about professionalism issues with new law students. The dates for the orientations are in your board book, but just briefly, Atlanta John Marshall will be on August 6th at the State Bar of Georgia. I anticipate that will be in person. Emory will be on Thursday, August 11th. I anticipate they're talking about doing hybrid. Right now, I think it's going to be in person, but they're considering a hybrid option. So stay tuned to the commission's website for more. Georgia State, we don't have an exact date yet, but it'll be the week of August 9th through 12th. Historically, they've done it on that Tuesday. And then Mercer and UGA, they will both be held on August 12th. So for our group of leaders who like to do multiple schools, you'll have to pick between Emory and Mercer. I'm sorry, Mercer and UGA, but I hope that you will participate at least one of the law schools. We love to have bar leadership involved in helping to teach our younger lawyers and law students about professionalism. The evaluations from 2021 are on the commission's website if you're interested, but please stay tuned for updates. And I hope to see several of you in August at the orientations. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Carlise, for your report, but more importantly, for everything you do for our profession and to promote the commission and professionalism. Next on our agenda, we have a legislative report. You're going to maybe think that Christine looks a little odd as this gentleman walks up to the podium. Christine has laryngitis, so Mark Middleton has agreed to give the legislative report. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my pleasure to fill in for Christine on behalf of Rusty and Roy, the rest of the team. We really appreciate the opportunity to be of service to the bar. Yesterday, you got a sense of the quality of the people that we get the privilege of dealing with down at the General Assembly, people like David, John Kennedy, and Senator Strickland, the others that you heard from. I'm going to take just a minute, provide a quick political report, and then briefly run through the bills that were approved by the matters that were approved by the ACL and how they turned out in the session. You know, giving an election report here just after the primary, before the runoff, and months before the general election is a little bit like giving a football report at halftime. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but there are a couple of takeaways that I think that are worth noting. The primaries proved it was a pretty good year for incumbents, with a couple of notable exceptions. Incumbents did well the other night, both on the Democratic and the Republican side. And approximately 1/3 in each chamber weren't even opposed to begin with. So fortunately for our purposes here at the bar, a lot of the people that we work with, we're accustomed to working with, will be back, and we're grateful for that. At the same time, there are going to be a lot of new faces down at the General Assembly. In the House, there are 180 members, 41 members chose not to come back. They either ran for other offices or just simply retired. And then in the Senate, the number was 10 out of 56. And so those are just the people that we know aren't coming back. And so as things unfold, we know we'll have an opportunity to meet a lot of new people in the new year. And so as Senator Strickland was advising us yesterday, it's a great idea and a good time to get to know your local legislator. And it's a reasonable chance that that person has changed. Quickly turning to the legislative agenda, we had 3 bills that passed that were part of our agenda, and then we had 3 major funding items that I'm pleased to say passed. The first bill that I want to talk about for a moment is House Bill 752. That was brought to us by the fiduciary section of the bar. They did a great job, Kyle King and that group. And it's a good bill that illustrates how important our ACL process is. Most folks, and John Kennedy and others could tell you, most people come to the legislature with an idea and then they try to turn it into a bill. And one of the benefits that we have as your lobbyists down at the General Assembly is that when we bring something that's gone through that ACL process, it comes, as a package, and it's something that's prepared, and it gives us a lot of credibility. And this bill was a perfect example of that. It was something that we were in a committee that we normally don't venture into as a bar, and we made some new friends over in the Health Committee. And Rusty and the folks that worked directly on that did a really good job. The second bill, HB 916, that's the Superior and State Court Appellate Practice Act. I think it was referenced yesterday as well. Both of those were House bills. It's worth noting, though, that Board of Governors member John Kennedy, who's in the back, he was our sponsor in the Senate on both bills. And so we owe him a special word of thanks for sponsoring both of those bills. In a lot of ways, sponsoring a bill in the second chamber is more difficult than in the first chamber, because you basically start from scratch, maybe 2 weeks out from the end of the session. So, we work on it. These bills were worked on the House side for weeks, and then John got them done over on the Senate side in a matter of days. So, John, we're really grateful for that. The next bill that that I wanted to talk about briefly that was part of our agenda, the ACL took, and then this Board of Governors took a position on House Bill 409, that established the Judicial Legal Defense Fund Commission. And then kind of segueing into that, we had three budget items. The kinship care grants, they were fully funded along with the domestic violence grants. And then the Georgia Resource Center, which has been in the budget for approximately 20 years, it was fully funded as well. So those items don't happen, those budget items don't happen without cooperation from the governor's office, OPB, and then of course the work that the Judicial Council does to put those in the recommendations to begin with. Rusty and Christine, be quick to tell you, they worked on all the things I mentioned up to now. I was in charge of House Bill 334, which was the remote notary bill, which went down in flames for the second year in a row. So that's my claim to fame. I suspect that we will get a chance to revisit that issue in the very near future. There's not a 20-second version of what happened with that. So if anybody's interested, Rusty and I will see you in the back at the end of the meeting. Thank you again for the opportunity to be of service, and we'll be hanging around in the back. Christine will be standing back there giving us hand signals, and Rusty and I can take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We are indeed well represented at the Capitol with our team of lobbyists, Mike Middleton, Rusty Sewell, Roy Robinson, and of course, our in-house legislative person, Christine Butcher Hayes. So thank you again, because that was a really phenomenal season. And also, I see you, Kennedy. Thank you. Okay, next on the information items on the agenda is going to be some information on a wellness section application that's going to be working its way through. And you both coming, okay? Javon Hicks and Joyce Giss Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. Wellness check. How y'all doing? Good, good. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning and this weekend. I hope that you have taken the opportunity to participate in the wellness activities that have been incorporated and have continued to be incorporated, and was added a bike ride, which was
It was very enlightening.
So we're coming before you this morning to reintroduce you to the fact that the Wellness Committee has proposed a wellness section on behalf of the State Bar of Georgia. Joyce did an excellent job at our last meeting, giving you what we want to do as far as having a wellness section. And so many of you responded with your support of our wellness section. In the board book, you will see the official application and the list of names of people who have signed on in support of this section. Also in the board book is the proposed bylaws for the section. There may be a couple of tweaks, but right now it's there for informational purposes only. At the next meeting, the fall meeting, we hope that it will be before you for a vote. If you have any questions about the section, about what it would do and how we will engage and continue to partner with the Wellness Committee, please just ask any of us. Joyce is here, who has worked with Carlise, and we had a subcommittee that worked on putting all of this together. Judge Joy Lampley Fortson also was part of that committee. And we want to just thank you all for continuing to put yourselves first, because we can't help others if we don't help ourselves. Any questions? Great, thanks. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Javon and Joyce. The next thing you'll see is there are lots of written reports. If you're looking at your agenda, those are outlined all and they're contained in your board book. So I hope that you will take a moment, if you haven't already, to review those. It gives me a good opportunity to say, at the new members breakfast this morning, David Lipscomb, as you might imagine, always attends that because he needs to tell them, how to act and all. But what he did say was something that's very important, and that is to look at your board book material. I'm sure most of y'all do this, but it was a nice reminder for everybody, look at your board stuff before you get here, right? Study it, make sure you know what's on the agenda so that you can ask questions if you have some and you don't feel like, you're not informed and don't know what's going on. If you have a question about anything that you see on the agenda in your board book, call me, call one of the officers. We're happy to talk about anything that might be of concern or if you have a question about. So, at this point, what I wanted to do, I was hoping that the Chief Justice would be here, but I think he's making his way here. But y'all are all my witnesses. I think we're being recorded, so make sure that he knows that I thanked him for his service. All kidding aside, I mean, this is truly serious. I do appreciate the Chief's service. I appreciate all of our court members being here with us, and especially the Chief and his service. And this will be his last Board of Governors meeting. And we will certainly miss him, but wish him the best as he starts a new chapter in his life, both with a new wife and probably a new career that I'm sure we'll hear something about. So at any rate, I did want to say thank you, Chief, even though you're not here, and give him a round of applause. I also wanted to take a moment to, and Damon alluded to this in his report, to thank the staff and especially to the communications and the meetings folks, because understand how having an unauthorized access event might push back all of these plans that are made by email, and you don't have access to your email and you can't contact anybody by email, which is so much of how we communicate these days. And so they pushed and pushed, and I think what we're having is a really, really great meeting. And so I wanted to thank all of y'all very, very much for that. At this moment, I'd ask if there's any old business for us to take up. Is there any new business for us to take up? Mr. Gary Spencer.
Chief Justice and Madam President, all our leaders. I stand before you as Vice Chair of the Seeking Equal Justice and the Eradication of Racism and Racial Bias Committee. We will have a Juneteenth, that is June 20th, courageous conversation. It will be virtual. We're trying to have an in-person option as well. That conversation will be about critical race theory. And so we invite you to join us. We are working on getting that information distributed to the bar members, given our unauthorized access event. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other new business that needs to come before this body? You're not funny. Pipe down back there. Is there any need to go into executive session? Okay. Are there any remarks, questions? It says Q&A. Does anybody have questions or answers? Comments or suggestions? Before we adjourn, because I'll forget if I don't say it now, there's a opportunity to have your picture made after the meeting. That would apply to new board members, or if you get your supplemental directory and you want an updated picture, Jennifer will be doing those pictures immediately after we adjourn. If you already have a headshot that you think makes you look great, go ahead and send that to Jennifer and she will put it in the supplemental directory. That goes for both the new board members who all had nice headshots on the slide. So I guess we'd have some of those. And to y'all that might want to have an updated picture in your supplemental directory. With no more business to come before this board, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank y'all very much and enjoy your afternoon, and I'll see you tonight.